Richard, welcome back to Off the Clock, and thank you very much for making the time. Please sit back, relax. We're just gonna get to know what you do off the clock. I mean, we know you run a big business. It's probably stressing you, and we want to help you de-stress today. So I'm gonna just kick it off and ask you a simple question. How's your sleep? I mean, do you sleep well?
Thank Peter. I do sleep, actually. It's one of I would suggest is one of my strengths. I have the capacity to sleep very well. I might get up once a night or so, but I do sleep extremely well. I have the ability really to sleep standing up as well. So I can, I was fortunate in that I went to boarding school and that one of the things that taught me was the ability to cut out noise. And the like, so I really do sleep well, and it frustrates my wife to no end because she struggles a bit. I have also a skill that I could be asleep within 30 seconds of putting my head on the pillow.
Oh,
and
wow.
That sounds familiar.
is that so? Yeah. But I do need to have a double espresso before I go to bed, because then that really puts me asleep. It's actually interesting. I start with rooibos in the morning, black rooibos, no sugar. I've managed to sort of kick the sugar habit over the last couple of years because that's not really all that good for you. Yeah. And then I move on to 5 roses at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and then by nighttime I'm on a double espresso.
Oh, never. You don't get to 6 roses. I mean, one of the CEOs or the business founder that we interviewed was telling us that he was sleeping like a baby. And when we kind of tried to find out exactly what that means, it's like I wake up every 3 hours and cry.
I don't understand the expression because that's exactly how babies sleep.
You go deep and then get up and cry for food.
Since we have you here and the whole show is about being off the clock, Richard, what do you do in your spare time? What are your hobbies? What do you do to connect with your kids? I know you have a son, met your son. So yes. How you bond with them, the hobbies you do, how do you incorporate that into bonding with your children, spending time with your wife, things like that.
So maybe just to tell the listeners or the viewers, I am married. I've got 2 kids. The eldest is 23 and the youngest is 22. The second born is a girl and the first born is a boy. They're actually at university out the country in Australia at the moment.
Great sequence.
Yes, I managed to get it right. In terms of bonding with them, it's a bit of a challenge at the moment, obviously, because they're out the country. But the good thing about digitization and the likes of WhatsApp and the like is you can actually communicate with people anywhere on the planet, any time of day and night.
Yeah.
And just, watch them in your hand on your cell phone. So that's really cool. We've got to worry about the 6-hour difference because they're 6 hours ahead of us. So I don't want to phone them at 3 o'clock at night. Sometimes they do that to me because they forget about it and all that. But
or they're just missing you.
or they need some more money. That's generally the way that works.
Cash.
That's right. So in terms of communicating with them, we talk probably 2 or 3 times a week. The girl more than the boy, because boys generally don't talk much. When I WhatsApp him to say, how are you doing? I get a response back that says, fine. When I do that to my daughter, I get 3 paragraphs. That's the way it works. And as a consequence of them being out the house, my wife and I are effectively empty nesters now, which I'm actually really enjoying because we really, absolutely, yeah. And I'll tell you the context behind that. I got married relatively late. I was 38 years old and I got married for the first time.
Late boomer.
I'm still married to the same woman. Okay, so this is my current first wife. It was on the first marriage. And we met, we got engaged, we got married, we started 2 businesses, we bought a house, we renovated the house and had a kid, all in the space of 18 months.
And you stayed together.
And we stayed together after that, yes. So it was quite sort of intense at the front end. And so now as the kids have left for varsity, there's a bit of free time in the context of the family side of things. So I'm really enjoying that. And getting to spend a lot more time with my wife alone. And you've met my wife, P.
Yes, she's
She's a very gregarious, outgoing person. Really enjoys the social life, and so that we're getting more of that.
yeah. I mean, the cat is amazing. Very much of a people's person.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of fear the concept of empty nest.
Yes.
Kind of, in a similar situation with you, who's still in the nest and has been kind of looking for emergency exit at the house, but all locked. And off that lock, I think we'll keep him on that lock.
Yes. For as long as you can.
Yeah, in the nest.
So yes, that's always the context of this sort of work-life balance equation idea. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it can always happen. In fact, I suspect that as you go through life, there are different focuses, different energies, different requirements at a point in time. So it's age and stage appropriate.
Yeah.
We as CEOs probably at the front end of our careers spend more time in the business than we do on the family. And we needed to probably reprioritize that a little bit better. But now that, particularly in my environment, I've got a little bit more resource, a bit more capacity, a bit more time, then there is time to spend, or more time to spend with the family. And I really do want to catch up on that as well. The kids are back at home in November once they've written exams. And so we've got a trip down to Cape Town planned, and we'll be together for a month and a half on holiday. So that's really quite cool. I would have preferred not to have had to live through COVID, as I'm sure we all would have, the once in a century problem that we had. But one of the upsides to COVID was that we were all together in the house at the same time. And we had, as a family, 6 months together that we didn't expect. And that was something that brought us together quite a lot. What we did as a family, we've got 4 people in the family. So one person was responsible for dinner on Monday night, the other person on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. The weekends we did something else. And I had to figure out my own menu, cook my own food for everybody. And so people started learning out, the kids particularly started learning how to cook. As you know, Kathy's a chef as well. So by the time they got out the house and went to Australia to university, they're actually cooking for their housemates at uni now because they can.
So what about how's your cooking skills now? I mean, you must thanking COVID for impacting you in a positive way.
So my cooking skills are better now than they were, but they weren't bad. But I'm definitely the sort of, my wife is the professional and I'm the enthusiastic amateur. So I'm the guy that sort of mucks about. And whenever she wanders into the kitchen when I'm cooking, there are too many cooks in the kitchen at one point in time. So one of us has to leave.
It's like a lifetime coach in the kitchen.
Okay, so what's a skill or talent that you haven't had the time to explore much, but you're very passionate about and would like to?
A good question. So one of the things that I do offline or not in the work environment is I really enjoy fishing, and fly fishing particularly. So that's a passion of mine, which I only really took up after varsity. A mate of mine from varsity introduced me to it when I was up here in Joburg. I'm a Cape Townian, by the way, originally a Cape Townian. Up here from Cape Town the first time that I was working. And it's a multifaceted pastime that would take you probably generations to really learn how to do properly. And I would say I'm mildly competent, but I'd like to spend a lot more time getting much better at it. I was fortunate enough, and as an aside story, my wife and I were in Botswana in the Delta a few weeks ago on holiday with friends of ours from the UK. And one of his plans post work is to become a fishing guide. He's an extremely good fisherman. What he's done is he's gone to guiding service school in his late 50s to take up as a second career once he finishes his formal career, which I thought was a cool thing.
Wow. So you're going to be...
I'm not sure I'm going to do that at quite that level, at that professional level. But I really want to get to understand the whole essence of the fly fishing culture, I suppose.
So, I mean, I remember a couple of weeks you went to Dalstrom for fishing. I mean, were you lucky? Did you catch anything? Is it catch and release or catch and eat?
Yeah.
What was it?
So my father wasn't a fisherman. In fact, he didn't know what a fishing rod looked like. And whenever I came back from a fishing trip, he'd say, "Well, how many fish have you got?" He'd be looking around for a cool box with some dead fish in it. And I'd say to him, "We do catch and release." He'd look at me and say, "I wouldn't even bother doing that. Going out there, you catch the things too. Give it back." So that's the kind of approach we take.
But really, I mean, you catch and release. You never
do.
get tempted to catch and eat.
So every now and again, we'll keep one fish for the pot. As an example, I was fortunate enough last year to fish for salmon in Norway, and they've got a particularly nice way of cooking salmon in Norway. So we kept a salmon over the week. And
One or couple of.
yeah, no, just one. We usually fish anywhere between 4 and 6 people. So we're not short of protein, so we don't need to keep them. And the idea is put it back and let somebody else catch the same fish again. But to talk to your question, you asked, did I catch anything in Dahlstrom last week or the week before? The answer is yes, and it was a personal best.
Personal best, what?
Yes.
Big size?
Yes, big size, 4.1 kilogram trout, which in
Trout, wow.
fishing is quite impressive anyway to me.
So very interesting. I mean, my kind of short stint of fishing, I was really, fly fishing to eat.
Yes.
It's like, it's just an amazing skill. I mean, flipping that thing, going around, and then trout, big mouth, catching, and then bringing it on. All what I'm thinking is putting this thing on a pen.
So I'm a firm believer in traveling as much as one can, because I do think it exposes you exactly to other ways of doing things where we consider the way we do it the right way, in inverted commas. So I was really lucky. I at school ended up my first trip outside the country was at the age of 16. Kind of did a school trip with a bunch of school kids and our classroom teacher. There were about 20 of us, and we started in London and ended in Tel Aviv. And it was that trip that if it's Tuesday, it must be Brussels type thing. We did London, Brussels, Paris, Greece, Israel, and the whole lot. That was the first opening of my mind to other cultures, other food stuffs, other languages, and all that type of stuff. I really do enjoy food. I enjoy food and wine pairings and all of that type of stuff. And a large degree, it probably comes from that traveling. I was also fortunate then to spend a year as an exchange student in America. They're not very well known for their food culture, but that was that was another experience that was fantastic. And as a result, I've traveled a lot.
Where about in America? Which state?
I was in Michigan. A little
okay.
town called Alpena, 200 miles north of Detroit.
Kalamazoo.
Not far from there.
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot to Europe. I've traveled a lot to America, Canada. I haven't done South America. I haven't done the Far East. I've done Australia, obviously, and to many African countries as well. And I really do enjoy traveling because it's exactly that, is the experience of how other people do things that we assume to be normal when it's kind of, that's maybe our normal, but not somebody else's.
So what stayed with you, from those trips?
So that's an interesting question. Part of my travels, my family background on my father's side is Lebanese.
Okay.
My grandfather came to South Africa in 1897, and I went to Lebanon for the first time in 1980. And we'd grown up in South Africa, obviously, with very much of a Western culture outlook from the States. And prior to going to Lebanon to see my family, I'd had this very entrenched Western view that what the West does is right, and as a consequence, what everybody else does may not be. And my family in Lebanon didn't have that same view at all. And so that was something that really struck me and highlighted to me that other people see things differently to how I do.
So, I didn't even know about this side of you. There's this notion that Lebanese people are very good in business. And I've experienced this, firsthand, having traveled around the world, and especially around the African continent.
Yes.
You find them everywhere.
Yes.
Even in Nigeria, DRC Congo, I find them doing business. And I mean, is this true or is just a myth?
No, it is. In fact, there are 24 million Lebanese on the planet. 4 of them live in Lebanon and the rest live around the world. That's how it works.
This is a true story. It's not a
True
fun
story.
fact.
Please hop on to Google right now.
So with all these travels you've done, what's your favorite place out of all of them? What made it so special to you?
So that's a question that I've struggled to answer actually, because different places have different impacts on one for different particular reasons. So maybe I'll answer it this way. I was fortunate enough to take a bit of a sabbatical last year, so I took the third quarter off and I went traveling.
3 months?
3 months, yes. July, August, September.
Wow. So running away from the winter, I guess.
Something like that. And part of the travels included walking the Camino in Spain. So we actually did the Portuguese Camino from Porto to Santiago de Compostela.
Wow.
And if you've ever been to Santiago, the church there is absolutely magnificent. It is just incredible. It's beautiful. Been there for like 1,000 years. You know, it started like a small hut and now it's a magnificent cathedral and all this type of stuff. So, and I'm generally not a religious person. I'm spiritual, but not religious. And walking into that piazza in front of that church after having, walked a couple of 100 kilometers, was quite meaningful to me. I really, really enjoyed it.
Wow.
Secondly, Barcelona, Spain, I think is just, and it's probably the second nicest city in the world after my home city being Cape Town.
That's like music.
Not that I'm biased, of course. And of course, the architecture in Barcelona is just stunning. The cathedral in Barcelona, if you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. It is absolutely, that is just something incredible. I'm trying to think of other places that I thought were.
So while you're still figuring out about other places, let me tag on your trip because I was lucky. I went to Madrid to see the bullfights.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know why people do that, but it's good to watch.
Yeah.
And
from a balcony up high.
Of course, they're far away. Like stay away from the bull. I don't know if you've ever been. I mean, I traveled to a place called Toledo.
Haven't been.
Amazing place. It's got churches of the world, all religions in one place. And was just an amazing story because when I went to Toledo 2 weeks before, I went to Egypt to kind of for the trip of Egypt to see the pyramids and the temples and the whole story of because it's so rich. And one thing that they told me was the Spanish people helped them to save the temples that were drowning or breaking and falling apart. And as a gift and a gesture of thank you for helping us, they gave the Spanish people a temple, and they transplanted one temple. On my way to Toledo, I saw that temple was put on the way. It was just an amazing trip for me to Damascus. It's like, seeing the Toledo with all the different churches in one place of the world and blessed by the story of the temple was just,
fascinating.
So something in your travels, what's the most adventurous thing you think you've done?
On that same sabbatical, I walked up Kilimanjaro. So that was the walk in the Camino was part of a training program to get up Kilimanjaro. I did that in the beginning of September last year. And that was quite a thing. It's 5,985 meters above sea level. Got together with 5 mates, 6 of us all together. And can't remember exactly how this whole thing started, but it probably had something to do with alcohol. And somebody saying, wouldn't it be a good idea to walk up Mount Kilimanjaro? And we all said, yes, of course, why not? And cheers. So we did that last year. It was really, really, it was fantastic. I think we were enormously fortunate because we had great weather. There wasn't any wind, there wasn't any snow. They don't have any sleet or rain or anything like that. It does get quite nippy up there. It was -7 when we summited on the day that we summited. And I don't know if you're familiar, but we walked it over 8 days. For the first 6.5 days, you walk sort of sunrise to about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The last day, they get you to bed early at about 6 p.m. And then they wake you at 11 o'clock and you start walking at 12 midnight.
Oh.
And so you walk for the first 6 hours in the dark, and then you crest the first section of Kitty, and then you go to the next summit and the next summit, and that's about 8 hours altogether. And then you walk down another 5 hours, and you go halfway down the hill before you camp and then come out the next day. So you've 6.5 days up and 1.5 days down. But the day that you actually summit is quite hectic because you're on your feet for about 16 hours.
Wow.
So, and we were all fortunate. We all made it. Nobody hurt anything, and it was fantastic. And I spent 3 hours in the shower afterwards because you haven't showered for 8 days. And I'm not going to do it again either, if that's the question.
Oh,
Take that
no.
off.
Very, very interesting. Wow. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I write a lot of thought leadership articles about, topics that I care about, like diversity and inclusion, how to do business in Africa successfully, women empowerment, and obviously empowering young people and getting them, a shot to get to the next level. Recently, I actually posted a thought leadership article about how CEOs deal with stress, sharing my perspective. I mean, I'm sure, running a business like this is very stressful. And now and then you're stressed. I mean, you're not always this bubbly guy. So, I mean, how do you deal with stress normally?
Sometimes I describe it, a duck swimming across the water, it all looks placid and everything
Yeah.
on top, and then
And
wheat
below
meat.
they pedal like hell.
Pedal like hell. So that's mostly what tends to happen. I deal with stress in multiple different ways. First of all, I think to a large, we've all got stress all the time. It's just different degrees of stress. To a large degree, if you understand what is important, what isn't important in the context of a situation at any point in time, then you can determine whether something is stressful or not. So maybe an analogy of that, if you're going to cut yourself and get an arterial wound on top of Kilimanjaro without any medical stuff, then the issue is problematic. But if you trip and cut your finger, then there's not really much of an issue. So trying to understand
Just deal with pain.
Yes. Trying to understand whether it's really a problem or not, I think, is the first step in the process. I think I deal with it by trying to deal with the issue as quick as possible. So I find that some people deal with problems by trying to ignore them. And my understanding of what happens then is it just gets worse and worse and worse, and the pressure levels increase and increase. So I try to deal with them as quick as possible. One of the ways that I was guided and mentored in doing that is that if you've got something that's really stressful and needs to be done, do it the first thing in the morning. Don't delay until last thing in the afternoon to address that issue, because you're going to be living with it for the next 8 hours. So rather deal with it head on and try and resolve it at that point in time. One last thing, relaxation. So whether it's sport, I try and do as much exercise as possible. I also play a bit of golf, get out into the fresh air.
I mean, in the kind of, and I don't want to go too much into the business because this is all about off the clock.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you back on the clock, but the biggest inducer of stress in this environment where we are in South Africa, load shedding, energy issues, I think it's one. Crime and corruption that you see kind of, a big one. And also with the economy that's growing, but the distribution and logistic thing not really, growing that capacity. I've seen it as a kind of a big challenge for me. Do you get stressed by those or your type of business is kind of those things? You don't have the load shedding problem.
So I think everybody in South Africa has a load shedding problem. It's just about a degree. If we were in, let's say, the quick service food business, and you had to buy big generators and fill them with diesel and spend 60 grand a month on keeping your KFC open or something like that, I think I'd be a lot more stressed about it. We need electricity in our business, but we need a small 5 kVA generator, and we're all good. I think that so when I tell stories about how we live in South Africa to my colleagues around the world, their eyes open this big and their mouths drop, and they can't believe all the issues that we have to deal with. But I think it's a mindset and how you approach the whole thing. If you recognize that there's going to be issues and that you're going to need to deal with them, well, then just get on and deal with them. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I do know that whatever happens, I'm going to be tenacious enough to resolve the issue. We all started 2020 thinking, yes, 2019's gone. What a terrible year. It can't get any worse. And then 27th March arrived. Voila. How's that? God has a sense of humor. So there you go.
Since we're back on the topic of the job and stress and all those things. So if you could change your career for one day, what job would you do?
It's an interesting question. So maybe I'll ask it in this way or answer it in this way. I never grew up to aspire to be a pawnbroker. It wasn't my outlook in life. Okay.
Just happened.
It just happened. I was either at the right or the wrong place at the right or the wrong time. And to a large degree, if I think about the big decisions that I made in my life, so my career, what I was going to do, the woman I married, these are not something that you strategize about and put a plan together and say, right, I'm going out tonight to find myself a wife. It just doesn't happen.
They just come to you.
They just get attracted to you.
You
had the same problem.
I must say, you're really lucky. Huh? Whatever happened, it worked out well. You got a chef as a wife. I mean, you eat well for the rest of your life.
I'm very fortunate. And very fortunate. So I didn't plan this, but what I did plan is that I always wanted to do something myself, and I wanted to do something with people. So going back to my wife, she says I take instruction poorly. So I literally can't work for somebody. I'm unemployable. Okay? So
tell us more about that if you don't mind.
So I always wanted to do something myself. My family comes from a family of small business background. My dad was the first one in our family to get a tertiary education. He was actually a CA, and as a consequence was involved in businesses, small businesses all the time. And that's probably where I got it from. And so I wanted to do something myself. I've got a bachelor's degree in commerce from UCT. That was a very, very scenic tour on how to get that degree. And then I left academia as quick as I could because they were going to throw me out before I actually jumped before I was pushed. The truth be told, champion of chaos. And started my career in the IT industry, actually, and ended up where I am today as a consequence of a friend of mine phoning me one day and said, do you want to become a pawnbroker? And I said, Pete, obviously, yes, I've always aspired to want to become a pawnbroker, which is clearly not the case. But that's really how it started. So it was about business, about people. And I think fundamentally what I really enjoy is building things. So maybe the little bit of background. I started the first cash converter store in Parow in Cape Town out of the back of my 323 Mazda that was rusted to hell and gone and the whole lot. So that's where it had its start. And today, yes, we've got a sustainable business that's been around in South Africa almost 30 years. What would I do, or would I wanted to go into another industry? I'm not quite sure. As long as it's something I'm going to build with people that I think can create some value, I would be interested in being involved. So maybe look at it another way. Our business here is in the franchising industry. So franchising is about a proven business model, branding, duplicating and expanding that through a franchise model. And that's the part that I really enjoy. We've got 100-odd franchisees in our business. We're interfacing with them all the time. It's all about people. You understand your business is about people. You flog machines that keep people alive. I flog secondhand toasters. It's
the same.
it's about people really at the end of the day. So I don't know the answer to it. I'm really excited with this stage of the development of our businesses because we're now on a journey to digitization. So there are many businesses and industries that are having to digitize and becoming effectively a fintech, which 7 to 10 years ago, we had no IT infrastructure in our organization at all. Now 1/4 of the people we employ are in the IT industry.
So how I mean, it's Richard Mukheibir coping with that, the world of social media, digitization and all that, because I mean, we here because I thought I was doing proper social media until my son said, whoa. LinkedIn is like very close to the floor. You haven't even started. Let's talk about it. So, I mean, how do you cope with that stuff? Because it's easy to talk about it, but maybe to grasp and get it going on for the matured and older people, it's like Kilimanjaro is for some. Yeah.
Part of what I really enjoy is continuous learning. So I read a lot, and I love being exposed to new things, new concepts, new opportunities. One of the what I've actually learned over the years is that I'm not very good at lots of stuff. As a consequence of that, I've tried to group around me people that are very good in the things that I'm not good at. So if you use IT as an example, we've got a CIO in our organization who's got 25 years experience in large corporate IT structuring. And so he manages that technical side of things for us. And then if you look at our marketing department, we've got a young lady running that as our national marketing manager who comes from the digital background. I mean, so I'm continuously learning, but recognizing I'm not very good at any of this. And I refer to them as the experts.
That's getting out of the way.
Yes, that's right. I'm just kind of pointing in the right direction, what I believe to be the strategy and where we want to end up, and then getting out of the way and letting them do it.
I think last question, but fun question.
Yes.
What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty
You don't have to
pleasure.
say anything that will get you in trouble. Something.
I've got two. They both revolve around booze. So I, as you say, I've married really well. My wife's family have a wine farm, and my brother-in-law is the winemaker, and he makes particularly nice wine. And so I really enjoy wine.
Is it really that good, or it's
No, it's
because
probably
you're
good.
related?
No, it's probably good. We'll invite you guys around and do a tasting one day, in fact. And so I really enjoy wine in general. With food, we do a lot of eating and drinking that. And then secondly, whiskey. I've started a little bit of a taste for whiskey, so I have a bit of a whiskey collection.
Okay.
And yeah, so every night I'd get home and have one or two whiskeys, and it'd be different whiskeys depending on what I'm feeling for or like at that point in time.
And this makes you feel guilty that you're enjoying.
I'm long beyond feeling guilty.
So, I mean, now that you like really touch the wines and the whiskeys, which we'll keep it light, but you didn't know this, but I actually did a project when I was doing my MBA to benchmark South African wine industry with the US.
Okay.
And I just went on that route, started collecting wines and went to different wine farms around the world. I'm in Argentina, Napa Valley,
Fantastic.
Bordeaux, the Riesling wines of Germany, the Tuscany.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just got hooked up into that world. But also what I learned a lot was realizing that actually South African wine industry, that's very good.
Yes.
And but maybe from a ranking standpoint, it's not where it's supposed to be. I find that the French wines, surprise, surprise, even the American wines are ranking much more higher because of maybe the advertising and the airtime and publicity that they get. Whereas the good wines of the south of Chile, Argentina, and South Africa are they're good. I mean, every time I go overseas, I'll ask for a South African wine. It's cheaper, but it's good. It's better than most of the wines that you get. I mean, do you find that experience? And what's been your experience?
I think it's generally everything to do with history and branding. Clearly, the French Bordeaux wines are going to be perceived by the world to be fantastic and world class, and yes, they are. But what tends to happen is that the third world countries that are coming into it only in the last 50 or 100 years, because the French have had 500 years at it, are ranking lower. I mean, the reality is when you and I were his age, there were 40 winemakers in South Africa. They're now 650. And you just multiply that across every winemaking country in the world. There's a lot of brands out there. So my brother-in-law always says the easy part is making the stuff. The difficult part is selling it because there's just so much supply. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think the easy part is to drink it.
And that's exactly it. You don't want to own a wine farm. You don't want to make the stuff. All you want to do is buy the bottle and enjoy it.
So, I mean, for a South African wine, maybe if you can advise us, how much should one spend for a good blend red?
You can buy good South African wine for less than 200 Rand a bottle. Easily.
No headache after.
No headache after. In fact, you get it in glass rather than a box as well.
All right. With a small tab.
No, you can really drink extremely well in South Africa on our South African wines. And like you say, again, part of the trip last year was we spent some time in France. You can't believe, I mean, as a South African on ZARs, what it costs you for a bottle of wine in Paris. It's ridiculous. So we can drink better in South Africa for less than half the price.
Drink better. Moving on to, because you spoke about the whiskeys and all that. And now and then you see some South African whiskeys and brandies, some Chinese and Indian and all that. I mean, it's really is the world catching up, staking up to the Scotch whiskeys and Scotland and all that. I mean, where is the world, vis-a-vis, the whiskey world, I mean, I recently got invited to just in July, the celebration of Independence Day by the U.S. ambassador at the embassy. And they were feeding us with Jack Daniels, mix and this and that, which is, more American than from, Scotland and all that. So how is the world taking up with...
I heard a story, and this may well be just a story, but it makes good for a good story, that both the Scots and the Irish years ago decided it would be a good thing to export their IP and teach countries how to make whiskey, in the context that what it would do is improve the supply and hopefully improve the demand, because they literally can't supply enough. If Scotland and Ireland were the only people making whiskey, then the price of whiskey would be 5 times the price it is, because they simply can't supply enough of the stuff. And so they're the guys that have exported the IP. They've gone to Japan to teach the Japanese how to make whiskey. They've come to South Africa to teach us how to make whiskey. By the way, Baines, South African whiskey from the Western Cape,
yes,
really number one. Very, very nice. Again, you can buy that for 250 or 300 Rand a bottle. Extremely good.
I mean, close to the single malts of Scotland and
it's not
Ireland.
Compared to a 15-year-old or anything from there, but it's very, very drinkable for a very reasonable price. I'm not a fan of the American whiskeys, but yeah, we can. It's always exciting to whether you're drinking Japanese, South African, Scottish, or whatever it might be, just to taste the different blends and different styles. And it's on my bucket list, by the way, to do a Scottish and Irish test, to trip to there to test their whiskies.
Have you tried the Indian whiskies?
I have not. Didn't know they made whiskey.
Okay.
Have you tried it?
I have, but I mean, I kind of use the mix of drinks to relax as well.
Yeah.
I'm also just like you. I didn't know there's so many similarities about us that the wine and the
Yeah.
whiskey.
Okay.
I try to educate him about alcohol in the right way. That is dangerous, but it's good. So what's something just maybe to close off? What's your favorite dish? Um, I'm sure you ask your wife, your chef, to do it again and again if you don't want to be the one doing it.
So I'm South African, I love braai. So I'll tell you
Yeah.
what we're going to do tonight. We're going to braai. We're going to braai lamb chops and horse. We're going to have roast potatoes, gem squash and peas.
Okay, that's
That's my comfort food.
That sounds like a good plan. I mean,
it's Friday.
for a Friday.
Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope this gets lots of views and it gets stronger and stronger. What a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, with that, Richard, thank you very much for spending the time and chilling with us. Cutting got some cutting shots.
No, thank you for all the experiences you brought here today with us. It was interesting hearing about you. Also, since I've met you a while ago, having to experience this side of you, sitting down and speaking to you like this, it was very nice. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you for the opportunity.